there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome and thanks for joining me today. In today's video, I want to do something that's a little bit different than I've done in most of my videos. Usually I show you, some sort of practicing idea or something to think about when you solo, or a shape or a lick or something like that. But what I want to talk about today is actually what I kind of consider a blueprint. And what I mean by that is I was watching Eric Clapton, the band, Further On Up the Road. So Eric Clapton playing with the band at their final concert, playing the song Further On Up the Road. And if you watch the first 24 bars of the tune is Eric Clapton's solo, and he has a very specific approach in that solo. And many solos do this. And a lot of times, we talk about all these different, boxes and scales and all these different things, but we don't talk about okay, well, how do you mix and match them together? How do you approach that? And so it's one thing to, learn the notes, right? You could transcribe the whole solo, and transcribing is always the best way to learn stuff because you have to do it. So in the process of you transcribing it, you tend to remember it. It's kind of different when you just read it off of a page. I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's not the best, okay? And of course, all the old guys will be like, just transcribe everything. Figure it out. That's the way to do it. And I get that, but it's really hard, okay? So what I like to do is kind of meet in the middle, which is I'm going to show you I'm going to break down sort of, here's the pattern, here's the sound, throughout those first 24 bars as I see it. And this is based on, both my ear and my eyes, because of course it's a video, so I can actually see the patterns that he's playing more often than not. That's very helpful. In the old days, when I used to do this, I would just sort of make a guess, okay? A lot of times I couldn't transcribe something, I couldn't figure it out, and you probably can't either in many instances. So it's helpful to just go, okay, well, what's the sound? What's the general region? I'll try to make something up that's really close. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of break down how this solo gets put together, and then I'm going to show you how you should practice it. So first, let's jump into it. And this is going to be a little bit pencil and papery at first, but stick with me for a minute because I think you'll see where I'm going. So it's a 24 bar solo, right? So let's draw some bar lines. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Yeah, we'll finish this up here in a minute. So it's in G. It starts on a G. What happens is the first basically 4 bars until the C7 chord, which is the 4 chord. Now, part of this is noticing what the chords are. There's no quick change, okay? So that's something that we have to notice. But in general, the sound that we get here is sort of major blues, and he uses box 2 to do it in G. Okay, I'll show you how to do that in a second. But let's just understand what we're doing first. When that C7 chord comes around, and on a little bit into where the G7 chord comes back, he plays G minor blues. And it's good old box 1. Okay? Now he does actually at the very, very end of it end on a major third right at the end. I happen to hear that, I happen to notice it. You may or may not. It's not that critical, so it's not that big of a deal. There's a little bit of a gap then that happens for a couple of bars, and then the D7 chord's going to come up. And he leaves a little space here, and I'm going to make note of the fact that he leaves a little space here because that's kind of an important thing, right, for phrasing purposes. And then he actually plays right here a little bit of, again, kind of G major box 2, but really only the top 2 strings. Okay, so that's kind of an important thing. Maybe there's a reason it's only the top 2 strings. Now, I haven't really tried it, we haven't really experimented with it, and you of course can, but little details like that may be important. So we should probably be aware. And then it's going to go to the C7 chord, and he goes back to good old box 1 again, G minor. I'm sorry that my handwriting is not the best, but hopefully you can follow me along okay. Then it's back to the G7 for some box 2 major sound for a couple of bars, and then we start up again. Now, what's interesting to note is that he kind of cuts off that lick and jumps up. And so here, the second 24 bar starts, and he goes up to the major house pattern. Again, I'll show you what that is, don't worry about it. And that goes all the way through those first 4 bars, okay? Once the C7 chord comes around again, it's back to box 1 minor for those 2 bars. Once the G7 chord comes back, there's a little bit of sort of box 2, box 1 mix right here. And I kind of call it the Chuck Berry. I get it from Chuck Berry. It's kind of mixing together the major and the minor sounds. I'll kind of point you in the right direction on that one. Okay, and that's for those couple of bars. That happens right there. And then again, when that D7 chord comes along, he uses that box 2 pattern, but just the top 2 strings. It's pretty much the exact same lick, in fact, right there. The C7 chord comes along. We're back to good old box 1 again. And at this point, his strap falls off on the video. And he gives the solo away. But judging from the previous solo, where he goes kind of back to that box 2 major sound, I'm going to put that in here. Okay? So this is up to me, I'll say. Okay, now, right off the bat, that probably looks like a fair amount of work. Like there's a few different patterns going on here, right? If we look just at the first 12 bars, we have, box 2, box 1, back to box 2, back to box 1. There's a fair amount of stuff going on there, okay? Now, if for some reason you're not totally hip to it, what I mean by box 2 and box 1 in the key of G, I have G, A, B, D, E, G. That's my box 2, my box 1, G, B flat, C, D, F. I suspect you know those patterns, so I'm not going to get too carried away on that. I have my house pattern, okay, which is going to come up in the second part. So I'm going to put my first finger at that 8th fret of the second string. I have 8, 10, 8, 10, 8, 10. That's it. And the 9th fret down below. That kind of makes the house. But that being my root, and I bend that second up a whole step, that's what gives me the major sound. If I bend it up a half step, I get the minor sound. It's very B.B. King sounding. B.B. King used that pattern a lot. It's often attributed to him, but truly lots and lots and lots of guitar players have used that. So that don't necessarily attribute it to B.B. King, but understand that a lot of people call it the B.B. King pattern, okay? And then, of course, like I said, over the 5 chord, just using sort of those top 2 strings of box 2. So if I were to try to play this, this is kind of a cooking shuffle, right? It moves right along. That's going to be a tall order to keep track of all of this stuff. But what we could do is we can slow it down. We could turn it into a slow blues, and it works. It can work the same way. Okay, I don't have to necessarily play at that tempo to use this idea. So let's throw a slow blues into the looper really quick, and what we'll see is that we can use it, it works very, very well. So I'm just going to kind of put something in about this speed. 1, 2, 3. And I'm using the same chord progression as the real song. Here's my C back to my G. You don't have to use this groove, but I like it. 5, the D7, 4 is the C7, G, and it doesn't go back to the 5 on the last bar. Right, so there it is in my looper. So now what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and play these ideas. So at the top, I got box 2. Now over the C7, it's box 1. Then we have that little break. Now the box 2 over the 5, back to box 1. So box 2. Take a little break, and then we're going to go up to the house pattern. Now it says I'm going to go, here's the C chord, so box 1 minor. Now G7. Here's that little box 2 thing. Over the 5, box 1, over the 4. And then the strap falls off. So whatever you want. All right? And that is playing using all the same patterns, all the same sounds, same general ideas. I've got that same general approach to the solo. So we're taking a solo that we know is good, right? That's a good thing. And we're taking those ideas and applying it to our own. Now, of course, from there, you could speed it up a little bit more, but it depends on your comfort level switching back and forth between the different sounds. If you're really comfortable playing house pattern, playing box 1, playing box 2, that might be a slam dunk. Go ahead and throw on a shuffle speed track and go for it. But if you are not comfortable making all those changes within a single solo, then you might just want to try to get one at a time. Okay, so maybe you're going to start with that minor, right? But remember, in over the 4 chord, it switches to the G minor blues. So maybe you're going to focus just on those first 6 bars, right? Maybe you're just going to try to get the major blues box 2 sound over the first 4 bars. And then hopefully you're going to hear that, hey, it changed to the C7. So you're going to try to switch over to that box 1. And then, okay, for the rest of it, maybe you're just going to keep playing box 1 because that's your safe place, right? That's where you can always go back to is G minor blues. When you play over blues in G, you can always go back to G minor blues. So if you ever get lost, if you're ever not sure, remember that you can always go back, right? Good old box 1, minor blues, it's going to work over the whole thing. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can always go back there. But as the chord progression goes around and you're kind of jamming and you're practicing with it, as that one spot comes around, try to do that thing. Pretty soon you'll get that down and you'll do it every time and it'll feel fairly natural. So then you add another spot, right? Maybe the little box 2 thing over the 5 chord, right? And maybe you try some of the other notes out of box 2 and see if they all work. I don't really know. To be honest, that's not an approach I typically use. So that was kind of a new thing for me. I never do that. So that might be something that I try to experiment with. Same thing, you just got to pick a spot and try to add it in, right? So I hope this gives you some sort of idea as to how this kind of thing can work. It can be very, very effective for your practicing if you are trying to approach a solo in a particular way. And I'm going to go to this pattern, I'm going to go to this pattern, but you don't have the notes worked out. You just know you're going to that general area. You'll kind of play something. You'll try to get the ideas flowing, but it forces you to move. Notice how we move out. We move up to that house pattern. We get some of that higher real estate. It shows you where that happens and how that happens. Notice that it happens at the second time through, not the first. Notice that he then goes back, right? There's all those little things. Those are very difficult to teach. And really the only way I think that you learn them is learning solos. And you don't necessarily have to learn the whole solo note for note, but you have to be aware of where those patterns are and how they go together. Okay, so have some fun with this. I will try to leave a link near this video. If you're watching it on YouTube or Facebook or social media somewhere, I'll try and point back to my blog. On my blog, I'll leave a PDF, a link to the PDF of my scribbles, in case that's useful to you. I don't have a jam track today. I just played it into the looper. I encourage you to do the same. But I hope you'll try this. I hope you'll play around with it. See if it helps. And of course, if you have guitar playing friends that you think would dig this video, I hope that you'll share it with them. I'll leave links near this video to my website, Blues Guitar Unleashed. You can always sign up for the email list. I do all kinds of things. I have the All Access Pass, mini courses, lots of different things like that. So I hope you go check it out. And I'm Griff Hamlin. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.